What if the person blocking your business from growing is the person you hired to run it? And that person is you. Hey, you're listening to She's That Founder, the podcast for ambitious female leaders who are ready to stop being the bottleneck in their business by using AI frameworks for faster delegation and decision making. I'm Dawn Andrews, and today you'll discover why no one does it like me is never really about your team, what it actually costs to wait before you fix the real problem, and how to tell the difference between an accountability gap and an architecture gap. Let's get into it. Okay, close your eyes, take a deep breath. Actually, you know what? Don't do that. You're probably driving or walking or something. Be safe. But stay with me, and I just wanted to give you a moment of zen. Instead, I might have stressed you out. Who knows? But what I want you to do is picture your morning. The alarm goes off, and before your feet even hit the floor, your brain is already running. You've got emails or Slack messages you didn't answer last night. The decision your team needs from you is before a client call, the thing you specifically asked someone to handle last week that you already know, you just know isn't done in the way that you would have done it. All that stuff is already swirling in your head. So you get up, you make the coffee, you can smell it. That first dark, bitter curl of steam rising from the mug. And for about 30 seconds, you think, today is going to be different. Today, I'm going to let them handle it. And then your phone lights up and it starts. By 10 a.m., you've approved 3 things you shouldn't have had to approve. You've answered 2 questions your team should have been able to answer themselves. You've fixed the one thing that was 80% right, but not quite enough, and you've rewritten it all. And somewhere in the back of your mind, that familiar story is running on a loop. No one does it the way I would. And here's the thing, you're not wrong. But today I need to show you why that sentence, that perfectly reasonable, completely understandable sentence, might be the most expensive story you're telling yourself. We're closing out Women's History Month today, and I want to tell you about a woman named Madam C.J. Walker. And if you've been listening, we've been doing some She Built This short podcasts highlighting female founders. But Madam C.J. Walker was the first Black female self-made millionaire in American history. She built an empire in the early 1900s, and here's what most people don't know about her. She almost lost everything. Not because the market dried up, not because a competitor beat her, but because she couldn't stop being the one person her business revolved around. It wasn't until she hired Marjorie Stewart Joyner, brought in Alice Kelly as a factory forewoman, and deliberately built a management layer between her vision and daily operations. And that's when her business became truly scalable. She created an architecture, a structure that could carry her mission when she wasn't in the room. Madam C.J. Walker didn't build a legacy by being indispensable. She built it by making herself designedly dispensable. And that's the real lesson of Women's History Month for founders. Not that the women we celebrate were everywhere at once, or that they even kicked things off and built things, but that the smart ones figured out, often the hard way, that the structure is the legacy of their business. And that's what today is about. So I'm sharing with you a pattern that I've watched play out with founders running multi-million-dollar service businesses and what it finally took for one of them to see the truth about herself. I'm going to call her Simone. She's a composite built from patterns I see repeatedly across founders at a specific growth stage. But if you're running a service business anywhere between $500K and $5 million in revenue, I think you're going to recognize Simone because in some way, at some moment, you are her. So Simone ran a mission-driven service business, the kind where the work deeply matters, where you walk in the front door and you could feel the purpose oozing out of the walls, the care poured into every detail, the intentionality behind every hire, the quiet hum of something that existed because one woman decided it should exist, that she was mad as hell and wasn't going to take it anymore, and made it happen through sheer force of will and vision. She has a team, a real one, people who believed in the mission, people who showed up. And she was exhausted. Not tired from a long week exhausted, the other kind. Bone deep, can't remember the last time I wasn't thinking about work exhausted. The kind where you're sitting at your kid's recital, physically in the seat, but your mind is 3 floors above you, running through a decision that needs to be made by Thursday. Her revenue was growing, crossing into the multi-millions, which sounds like the dream, right? Except growth without architecture doesn't feel like success. It feels like the walls closing in. Every new client means more complexity, more exposure. Every new hire meant more management. Every new dollar meant more of her time. And she had one specific employee, let's call her the clinician, talented, dedicated to the mission, and Simone was quietly losing her mind over her. She just doesn't take ownership, Simone told me. She needs everything spelled out. She can't make a decision without checking in with me first. I've given her feedback, I've been patient, given her training, I've tried everything. No one does it the way that I would. Sound familiar? Probably. Here's what I want you to feel right now, because this is the moment where everything shifts. Imagine that you're sitting across from me. We're in a session. The coffee between us has gone a little bit cold. You've just finished telling me everything. Every dropped ball, every missed expectation, every time the clinician came to you with a question they should have been able to answer themselves. And I am deeply listening. I am nodding. I am taking it all in. And then I ask you one question. Walk me through what this person was actually hired to do. And as you're talking, something starts to shift. It's a small thing at first. It's like a flicker in your chest. Because as you describe the role, you start to hear it. The thing that you couldn't see when you were inside it. The clinician wasn't struggling because she was the wrong person. She was struggling because she was being asked to do the wrong job. Somewhere along the way in the beautiful, chaotic, messy process of growing a business, operational responsibilities had migrated onto her plate. Business decisions, administrative ownership, work that required a completely different skill set. And every time it didn't work, Simone looked at that person and thought, performance problem, commitment problem. No one does it the way I would. But the job she was being asked to do, it didn't exist yet, not really. And not with the right person, the right title, the right authority, the right support. The org chart was wrong. And Simone had been working around that gap for so long that she'd stopped being able to see it. So hang with me, because this is the part that matters the most. I see this regularly. Smart, capable, mission-driven women who have built something real mistake an architecture problem for a people problem. And whenever that happens, we don't fix the structure, we hover. Because we're a human, we focus on the human. And the human feels like a big rock in our path, and we just want that rock to sort itself out, either get in the path or get out of the path. We check in, we approve things we shouldn't have to approve. Our standards are high, and that part is true. But here's what else was true for Simone. Underneath the no one does it like me story, underneath the frustration, underneath the exhaustion, there was something quieter, something that she hadn't said out loud yet. The business was her identity. She had built it from nothing. She had stayed up nights for it. She had sacrificed for it. She had become the business. And somewhere in the architecture of her own psychology, letting go, really letting go, felt like disappearing. Like if the business didn't need her the way it needed her now, then who was she? So she held on, not because her team was failing her, but because releasing control meant confronting a question she wasn't ready to answer. And I say that with love, and I say it because I've seen it in nearly every founder I've worked with at this level. And I say it because naming it is the only way through it. Hey, Lovey, if you just felt that, the identity problem wearing a management costume, listen up. Every week you stay in the middle of every decision is a week your business can't grow past you. It's not a motivation problem, it's an architecture problem, and it compounds. CEO Clarity Consulting is where we fix it. We rebuild your decision architecture, your ownership structure, and your time model in one focused engagement so the business runs without your constant involvement. If you recognize yourself in Simone's story, that's not a coincidence, that's a signal. Book your CEO Clarity call now. The link's in the show notes. So back to Simone, she didn't tweak a process. She didn't do another round of feedback conversations. She didn't create a performance improvement plan. She didn't try harder to explain her expectations. She redesigned the whole organization. So picture the moment that decision becomes clear. You're probably at your desk late, the rest of the office is quiet, and you look at the org chart on paper or on a screen or just in your head, and you finally see it clearly without the noise of daily urgency clouding that view. The structure is wrong. It's been wrong for a while, and I'm the CEO who has to change it. She hired somebody to own business operations. Someone whose entire orientation was built exactly for that role. The role that had never existed on paper, but had informally, exhaustingly, unsuccessfully been sitting on the clinician's desk for years. She built out positions around the actual work that needed to happen, not the work that had defaulted to whoever was closest. And eventually, and I'm not going to soften this because the truth is what makes this useful, the clinician had to go. Not because she was a bad person, not because she didn't care about the mission, she wholeheartedly did, but because she had been set up to fail in a role that was never right for her. And keeping her there, continuing to hope the right person would emerge from the wrong conditions, was costing the whole organization. Here's what I need you to hear now. They are still in the restructure right now. still rebuilding capacity, still recovering the months spent pushing in the wrong direction with the wrong person. The right decision doesn't always feel clean. There's no cinematic moment where the music swells and everything clicks into place. Sometimes you make the right call and it's still hard. And doing it late, taking forever to get there, makes it more expensive, not less. This is the cost of waiting, not the cost of changing, the cost of not changing sooner. So, why am I telling you this story? What does Simone's story actually teach us? The first thing, that oversight problems with people, are almost always architecture problems in disguise. When you're in every decision, every approval, every quick question, the instinct is to look at your team and point fingers and ask what's wrong with them. The better question is, what's wrong with the structure? What decisions haven't been given a real home? What roles are carrying work they were never designed to carry? And then what gaps are you filling with your own presence because no one built a system to fill them instead? And then the second thing to take away from Simone's story, and this is the one I would like you to sit with a little bit. No one does it like me. If those words, those thoughts are living with you, it's about identity, not standards. Your standards are real, but if you're using them as the reason you can't let go, you're not actually protecting the business. You're protecting yourself from the discomfort of not being needed. Living with and growing through that discomfort is the work, and the org chart is actually the easy part. And then finally, another thing to take away here is that AI is genuinely useful here, but not in the way that most people think. I use AI to map organizational structure, identify role gaps, run scenario planning on what a restructure could look like before a single conversation ever happens. You can load your current org structure, your revenue model, your team's responsibilities into a conversation with AI and ask it to show you where the weight is unevenly distributed. And it most likely will work for you, but we have tools over here that we've built, proprietary tools that are just for this purpose, that give us very detailed information. So AI will surface things you can't see when you're inside it, but AI is only good at surfacing the pattern. A strategy expert helps you decide what to do about that pattern. And that combination is what changes things fast. That's why we're early adopters of AI over here. So let's go back to where we started. That morning, that coffee, the phone lighting up, the story running on a loop. No one does it the way I would. Here's a different story I want you to run instead. This is not a mindset hack, not a toxic positivity reframe. This is a real one, grounded in what I've watched actually work. Madam C.J. Walker didn't become the first Black self-made millionaire by being everywhere at once. She got there by building a structure that could carry her mission when she stepped back from the daily grind. She made herself dispensable by design, and that legacy outlasted her. That's the org chart talking. The founders who build something lasting do it the same way. They make themselves dispensable by choice, by design, by the deliberate construction of a structure that carries the mission when they're not in the room. And that is not stepping back. That's stepping into the actual job, the CEO job, the one you've been telling yourself you want. So your action steps for this week, look at your bottlenecks, approvals, questions, things that only move when you move them. And ask yourself, is this an accountability problem, or is this a role that doesn't have a proper home yet? Just write it down, because the answer to that question is the beginning of your restructure. And if you already know the answer, if you're listening to this and you can name 2 or 3 things that have been sitting without a proper home for longer than a quarter that you're holding and pushing off to other people, that is your signal, sister. Don't wait another quarter. Book your CEO clarity call. The link is in the show notes. I would love to work with you. Until next time, go build something that doesn't need you to be everywhere. That's the whole point. See you soon, Lovey.